Recording this computer. Okay, good.
There you go.
All right, we're all set. Okay, so as I was saying, it's the net weaving is still very powerful online, but it's still more effective in person. So I'll shortly turn it over to Mike here, and Bob will share a little bit of forum business, and then our speaker for today is Augie Tetzlaff, business turnaround executive. I've listened to several of his presentations before. You guys are in for a treat. He's got some excellent insights, and then we'll close out the year as we wrap up later on today. So, Bob or Mike, you'd like to jump in there?
Yeah, I'll take it for just a minute. I'll let Bob do a little business. Thanks everybody for joining the virtual forum today. As Austin was saying, the challenge is we missed that in-person net weaving. Even if we were doing it with elbow bumps, it'd be nice. But we have adapted, and happy hours, in addition to this, have been useful and fun. If those of you have a chance or haven't had a chance to join us, actually pretty entertaining sometimes. The forum talk about our vision, which is creating this environment of transparency, trust among the community stakeholders. And that's what we've been about now for 12 years, I guess it is. And we're trying to build this community among the investors and the lenders and the brokers and the other professionals. Ultimately, we're trying to get some deals to happen, and we want to enhance the value of those deals, both for the sellers, the buyers, essentially achieving some win-win transactions. That's ultimately what it's about. Net weaving, we've been engaged in that virtually here, but from Tara, it's about the listening first, instead of and listening with intent to understand and not just to reply. And the last quote, the other underpinning is servant leadership, and that's low ego leadership. I lost my quote, but
I'm sorry. It's coming back. Hang on, give me a second.
That's okay. Servant leadership has been part of it since the very beginning. And again, it's low ego. It's looking after the stakeholders, back to our mission, looking after the stakeholders first, and winning through achieving results, winning and achieving results through your staff, if you will, your people, rather than being the one that feels like they're driving the whole train. So servant leadership, net weaving, underpinning M&A forum, building that community. And the gentleman who's been helping us through a lot of this, Bob Vinson, our chairman. So take it away, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Speaking of getting deals done, we mentioned last time, I think, that we were working on a deal listing facility in our website. We're still working on that. We've got, Kyle has got, I think, the mechanics of the listing site set up. What we're working on now is the legal and terms of use part of it. And George Korisky and his group are helping us out there. So hopefully we can roll that out here pretty soon. We had hoped to have it going by the end of this month, maybe the middle of December before we do. But when we do, we'll put out a mass email explaining what's going on and how to use it. It'll be for members to post their deals. It will be for anybody who wants to look at, and hopefully contact the members if they're interested in the deals. So we're working on that. That's our big news. We're also working on what we're going to do next year. We've talked about going back to person. Haven't quite got that straightened out yet. The facility we were using, they don't seem to, the Houston Technology Center, which is now Houston Exponential, doesn't seem to want to respond to our overtures at this point. So we're trying to get a hold of them, and also I'm going to start looking at different facilities here in the future. Maybe I'm thinking it'll be probably well into next year before we get back to face-to-face meetings. We also are talking about how we're going to price things next year as far as membership goes, and also as far as the individual meetings go. We're going to be putting out a survey to all of our members and all of our friends, asking them what their opinion is on this whole thing. So hopefully we can come up with a group consensus. And so if you get the survey, please answer it. Our survey responses in the past have been in the range of 6 to 12 people out of our over several hundred contacts. So show us a little love, answer the survey, take you about 2 minutes, and we'll have a better idea of what you really want. And hopefully we can implement that. So that's it as far as the business goes right now.
I guess, Bob, it'd be, if someone has a thought, it's always dangerous to throw it out, but regarding a venue, as Bob says, we're not clear on what Houston Exponential is or is not going to be. Is it going to be available? I'm not sure they know, honestly, Bob, what's happening. That's
true.
And their new facility is the old Sears building right down there in what they're calling the entrepreneurial corridor or the tech corridor or something like that. So that's not a bad location, but I don't know when it's going to be open and what the arrangements might be when they finally do get it open. So the other thought would be there's several incubators around town. I don't know if anybody in contact with them or if they would have the size of facility we need, but that's another, I guess, potential venue area that's connected with startup business, new business, and so on and so forth. So like I say, if anybody's connected with one of the startup incubators and you think that one has enough facility for 50 people, then maybe drop Bob or myself a note. We can maybe check it out. We need some help. So
we might also consider all of the co-working spaces that have offices in Houston. They're always anything they can do to get people in the door. I think they would probably be open to it as well, to have a nice captive audience.
Well, if you've got a suggestion, please email it to me. It can be one of my 200 emails each day. And I promise I'll pay attention to it.
No problem. I can do that.
Just don't grab one of the hooks from the fishes, Bob. We don't want that.
Okay.
And then, hey guys, location wise, do we want to keep it in the general downtown midtown area, or were we looking at maybe some other locations?
Well,
it's been successful. My 2 cents, Austin has been successful in that area. Like I say, downtown, midtown kind of area.
Okay.
Inside the loop, certainly, I think is really important. That's my impression, Bob, or anybody else who's been around for a while.
We've got members who are as far out as Conroe and down south in
Lake City, yeah.
League City and some of those areas. So it would be nice if we could keep it more or less centrally located.
Makes sense. Okay.
Okay, and before we jump too far, Augie, I gather you need somebody to run the slides. Did I understand that correctly?
Please. Yes.
Okay, so either Bob or Austin, I don't have the slides available. I jumped to the big computer, so.
I'll do it. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just, sorry for the bit of administration, but.
Okay, so here's, are we ready to transition? I need to stop
I
sharing.
will go ahead and pull them up and I'll introduce Augie, who's perhaps somebody who needs no introduction, but been involved in the M&A forum for quite some time. And, as I think Austin mentioned, really deeply experienced on what I'll call the value creation side, particularly. What do you do when, while he's been involved in due diligence and so forth, while he's back in Kansas City, came from Kansas City. You can't get out of that place, can you, Augie? You just keep, keep coming back.
Centrally located.
Centrally located. There you go. Perfect. But again, comes from let's call it the M&A transactional background, but has the added dimension, as I say, of really having to deal with the challenges that acquirers have found when they got into a business. And as you can see on the screen, he's had been involved in some really great success stories. Maybe he'll tell us a few that weren't so great success stories, but I truly enjoy thinking about how we'd end this year. Thought about Augie and being up in Columbus, Nebraska, but it's about, how do you make things work? As I say, making great gains in small places. Not everything happens in the Houston Chip Channel or someplace in Dallas. There's a lot of good things going on, a lot of opportunity. And Augie's going to talk a little bit about that. So take it away, Mr. August.
Much appreciated. And Austin, if you don't mind driving.
Happy to drive. You can start talking as I pull this up.
Okay, well, that works.
His wife won't let him drive. Come on.
Well, I appreciated the discussion of Louisiana, South Louisiana. When I was in college, I got a great paying summer job working in a resort city, Morgan City, Louisiana.
Oh my heavens. Got the perfect spot.
Well, I got to work in a pipe yard and got tuned up for one, my English. I was informed by some of the Cajuns that my accent sounds like those people on TV. And they had to help me through. I had some skills. I could read, write, and count, which was unusual in the pipe yard. Truly, you're preparing shipments. But they could undo a crawfish tail single-handedly in seconds, which is something I could never master.
I'll get a plate before your call. We're going to make one.
All right, we're getting there.
Okay, well, I appreciate you working through the technical aspects. That this is one of the challenges of the. And by the way, where I sit, every once in a while, my screen pops up and says a warning message: your internet connection is unstable. So if I take on the voiceover of a transformer robot or disappear, it's out of my control.
Yeah, you do sort of phase in and out or break up a little bit.
Okay.
But you could talk real slow and that might help.
Well, appreciate it, Lee. Well,
Okay.
fantastic. That
Are you, what are you guys seeing on the screen?
Austin, it is. I can now see the. Right now, I see the slide view. That is, I see all of them. If we could hit
Presentation, yeah. when you
show
present-
from the beginning.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. Okay. Yeah, I've only done this 100 times. You think I'd have gotten better at it? How about now? What are we seeing?
Same thing.
It's like
Okay.
watching a millennial with a rotary phone.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, see, that's why I didn't laugh at those guys, right?
Oh, there's up at the top, it says slideshow. I think that's now. Oh, there it is, Austin, just over, whoop, there, whoops, no.
Okay, let me, and then presentation. How about now?
And we're just seeing a giant thing that says slideshow.
We got just a giant icon.
Yeah, I just got an
At the,
icon.
at the top tabs, there's a tab that says slideshow. If you go to that one, then one of them will be start from the beginning.
Okay, I'm seeing something totally different on my screen. I hear you, Lee. Let me, okay, I'm gonna hit stop share and start all over again.
There, we got it.
Okay,
We do have a slide showing.
okay, let me, hang on a second. How about now?
There we go.
Is that it? Okay, good. All right, good. We all set, Augie?
Hey, right now, I think you might have worked the magic because I see the first slide.
Okay,
And
I think we're there.
if you don't mind, I'll just use a word like advance and we'll go
Okay.
forward. So
I'm happy to-
kind of in the old timey field manual layout, we've got the turnaround tactics for remote but essential operations, making great gains in small places. Advance, please. And our discussion, who's it for? Agile and servant leaders who guide and support enterprises going through transitions and transactions. Me, I'm contracted general manager and manager of business turnarounds and strategic projects, and been an advisor of operations of manufacturing, distribution, and industrial services. What we'll have is some examples of enterprises that have essential operations that are remote from headquarters and or from a top 100 US city, and that are confronting serious challenges and decline. And how we're going to do that is we're going to take some excerpts of doing diagnostics and then moving on, taking action on those discoveries. So we'll have a snippet of examples and some excerpts of how to look at it and act on it. Advance, please. And now, as on this slide, we've got the diagnose on the left and act on the right. And there was a question. Now, this happened to come from a Houston manufacturer. And one of the things when you're looking to turn around a company, that one of the important things is to do something tangible and visible. Because the longer you take to make a visible change, the longer people think, what? Nothing's changed. I come in the door and nothing has changed in the facility. So this particular operation had some great gross margins on a modular blast buildings, but they had declined to the state that their current ratio was a 0.8 and they were getting to a critical 0.75. So this is one of the storage rooms on the left, diagnosing, hey, if it looks like a mess, it probably is. But on the consulting side, you're supposed to ask questions. So a question, why would a belligerent and low-performing longtime supervisor defend the condition of the storeroom and the time that his direct reports spent in it? I wonder why. And he was violently opposed to cleaning it up. Well, then after it was cleaned up, then there was a question, why would the chronic loss of tools and some expensive materials evaporate after we got the storerooms cleaned up? It's a mystery. But that guy was really mad. And on the one on the right, not only do we store everything that's necessary, but we even added a workbench there, so we got it out of the flow from the rest of the plant. We also discovered that there was a window back there. That, on the left, you can see where the window was, but it was held with paneling, and you could basically only get your hand out of it. Now we made it a full window. Advance, please. Same
Augie,
facility, same view. When you walk around this long,
I think you froze there.
No, it lost the audio.
Austin, I'll keep going, but Austin, let me know if the audio breaks up.
Yeah, you just broke up. I think you made a request. I didn't hear anything you said.
Okay, I'll go signals. Like I said, this connection here. Trying to find work in process, where they had left materials, where they had left tools. And I see the comment to dial in with the phone. Question, can everybody hear me now?
It's still patchy.
Okay. Appreciate it. I'll try the phone.
The case of where's 5G when you need it, right?
There you go.
Okay, my apologies.
You sound great, Augie.
I'll try the phone. I can hear folks. I'm going to switch and I'm going to try to get on the phone. I'm
I'm
gonna,
gonna try this.
how's the phone working?
Getting a little bit of an echo. Can you mute your
I'm good.
monitor?
Okay, I've muted the PC. Is the audio okay?
Yeah, you're good now. No echo. Perfect.
I got it. Got it.
Okay, boy, my apologies. I think, well, I got the Airbnb. I should have made sure that they had good internet connections. Are the screens, at this point, the screen is frozen. I've got the one that says diagnose.
Yeah, we're looking at the one with the diagram in the middle of the screen, Augie.
Slide 4, yes.
Right.
Slide 4.
Okay, that was an example of a team that looked at the mess. They had a decommissioned fire extinguisher just hanging there. They looked at a different way of using those beams in the plant in a way that could be used for locations. And there on the right, you can see where they painted the beams a bright orange. They put numbers on them, and it made it a lot faster and easier to locate items. Okay, next slide, please.
And Augie, I think you have to turn off your speakers on your computer as well as mute the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting feedback.
Okay, any improvement?
Yay.
Oh man, sorry about that.
That's okay. Press on.
Okay, this particular slide was, now ordinarily when I look to make a physical change that really affects a facility, I usually don't do a lunchroom. But for this particular plant, the lunchroom was causing a lot of anger amongst the employees. And basically it was a couple of senior supervisors got to hog all the time on the one small refrigerator. They got to make exclusive use of the microwaves. And the place just kind of smelled like rat urine. So
God.
I left the option for employees to do a project and see what they would come up with on their own. No additional overtime went into this. People could work on it when they had downtime during their shifts. We looked at salvaging some paint, some building materials. We put in less than $3,000, and the upshot was we got rid of the rat's nest. We got new or painted, refurbed the ceiling tiles, painted the walls, new flooring, and instead of just one small dorm-sized refrigerator, we checked Craigslist, and for a couple $100, there was a convenience store getting rid of that nice big glass doored one. So that really caused a big uptick in not only morale, but it made it easier for people to make use of their 30-minute lunch and their 15-minute breaks. Next slide, please.
Augie, can I jump in for just a second on that one?
Yes.
This is Mike. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought it was appropriate. I had a very similar situation in Jamaica. And the thing, we redid the lunchroom, if you will, and in fact added, because they love dominoes and things like that. So basically created a place where you could get some community among your workers, so that they felt, just human. That they could take a break, they'd have a sandwich, they could do their dominoes a little bit, and just kind of unwind, because it was in that case, a propane bottle filling plant. So they were under the gun, constant high product turnover, because you were moving fast to fill the bottles. So, and the other aspect of that was the restrooms. It is just amazing to me how leaders can ignore the fact that, employees have S-holes for restrooms. It was amazing. And in that case, again, we redid the restroom. And that was in Jamaica, and I know of a situation here in Houston that is exact, same thing. So it's not a matter of being in a foreign country. It's right here in Houston, and it's like, yuck, the restroom's terrible. And now the leadership has decided now they're going to fix that restroom, and people are a lot happier now. So, and more productive. Sorry, I just wanted to add to what you had to say because it's important.
It's something, it doesn't show on any financial statements.
Yep.
But it has a huge impact on morale and productivity.
Yep.
And in this facility, the same thing. We had to clean up bathrooms and lockers, but the break room, and the fact that employees were willing to, some of them invest their own break times on making that happen, and that it cost less than $3,000 out of pocket. Well, so the upshot is that there are similarities in business turnarounds in terms of the broad basics, but the specific situations do vary. So big picture, we're looking to holistically separate, what's valuable from detrimental junk. And that could be in sales and design, finance, HR, financial accounting, management accounting, IT, purchasing, maintenance. And frankly, in many cases, there is an equity holder who is the most detrimental influence to the company. That's a challenge. There can be understood differences in the enacted culture, mindsets, and habits that go across shifts, functions, teams, sites, companies, supply chains, and communities. And a big difference from what is the intended culture or expressed as the culture. So you have to have your eyes open. What is really happening here? I've seen some folks that just looked at the financials, they just looked at the deal book, and they thought they knew the company. No, until you're there, you have to see it to believe it. Advance, please. So some example enterprises, on that last slide, we saw a picture from a company where starting February 10th, I was deployed to central Nebraska because I'm still working with them and we're going to be fairly open in what we've seen. I'll just obscure the name of the company for the time being. The overall problem was the site had gradual decline for about a decade. But in the prior 3 years, that decline accelerated. And so that's when the CEO gave me a call and said, look, we don't ordinarily send anybody out there. It's pretty much been under the purview of a single site general manager. Could you come in and start coaching things? But if it looks like it's going to be a power struggle, are you in position to become the site's general manager? We want to get this turned around and really buttoned up in 3 quarters. Referencing Snorkel, just for those folks thinking about venturing and making their first acquisition, I referenced Snorkel, the aerial work platform manufacturer in Elwood, just because it's a fun story where back in the very last of 2002, they bought the company for $4 million. It was a group of investors that lived close to Elwood. They had watched this company get acquired by Omniquip, and then Omniquip was bought by Textron, and Textron promptly drove it into the dirt. So it went from an enterprise value of $170 million to where these investors with Elwood Holdings were able to buy it for $4 million. And then just a few years later, mid 2007, they sold it for $126 million. In terms of finance, I understand anytime you can get over a 100% compound annual growth rate, that's considered a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's better than the U.S. Treasury. Yes, it is, Augie.
It was surprising. Unfortunately, the next buyers, Tanfield, turned around and did the exact same big company things that Textron had done and drove it back into the dirt. Oh well. That was a fun ride. And then there's some other examples we might touch base on it from central Missouri, a bit northward of Houston, there was another. And we can look at those. Advance, please. Next slide. And I've gone quiet. I'm not sure with the disconnect if with my internet connection if I'm seeing the same slides you are.
I'm on slide 8.
Okay, so with the diagnostics, a couple things. If you do the quick form, you know, if you've looked at the deal book, you're looking at the financials, quick check, dealing with the people, observe and characterize, one, by the level of power and authority. What's the tone of the top influencers? What do the equity holders think? Any active debt holders? What is the mood in the middle? And what is the buzz at the base? What are the frontline employees saying about the company and its prospects? Okay, and I'll tell you what, folks, I'm not sure, Austin, if I'm again seeing the screen. My thanks. We've got the C's of knowledge workers, you know, the character, capacities, and capabilities and capacities, and to take a look at how decisions are made and enacted. Really, how's it really happening? Not how you're told it's happening. Advance, please.
So Augie, are you experiencing some delay as I advance? Because I see slide 9 clearly. Okay, are you able to see slide 9?
You know, my view, it's still staying on the short term or short form diagnostics, and the edge that should be showing me the slide number is obscure.
Okay, so we're on slide 9 right now, titled "Elements of Operating Performance." That's your big your integrated chart.
Okay, appreciate it. Well, for slide 9, the what that is if you take it to a deeper level, that is, instead of just looking at superficially what the culture looked like, this is a view of 49 elements that individually and collectively drive operating performance. I kind of use it as a checklist when I'm coming into a company just to see how things look in each of those areas. Sometimes it's just, depending on the company's market and strategy, sometimes you can just do a flyover and get a quick feel. In other cases, it's vital to drill down on some of them or combinations. And in a lot of cases, the culture and leadership element, the communication and decision patterns, and organizational learning and knowledge management, those end up playing off of each other. Again, particularly as you move to turn around that operating performance. Advance, please.
Okay.
And this slide is just a picture of employees who, the company in central Nebraska, we already had a mechanism for all employees meeting in relatively small groups once a week for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I played off of that because it was, the structure was there, but it wasn't being effectively used. You had a fellow who was the safety engineer who in fact was detrimental to the discussion of safety, that he tended to beat people up. That is, if somebody reported a hazard or potential hazard, he'd sit dormant for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then he would send out a nasty gram, beating somebody up for the presence of a hazard, and a lot of times nailing either the person who reported it, who had observed it, or their supervisor. And the upshot was it just dried up all the communication. And that particular safety engineer reported to the site general manager, who really had an autocratic tone. What we have here is where people get together for that once a week. They're 15, 20 minutes. But I found a way to patch in the company's CEO for a quick 5-minute pep talk. So people felt like they were getting visibility to other levels than had been done previously. Next slide, please.
That's a cool move, Augie. That's a really cool move when you're talking about a remote facility. That is, wish I'd have had that amount of technology when I was trying to handle Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica. You know, I physically had to go every time. You know, that was the way it got done.
But there's a lot to be said for being there, because when I saw these meetings, basically talked about anything but safety, even though that's what they were ostensibly supposed to be about. And if you looked at it outwardly, you would just see that it was certainly, the function was staffed and they generated lots of reports, but the actual effect was hazardous conditions were allowed to persist just because of the immediate situation. Now, COVID seems to have disrupted a lot of businesses, manufacturing operations, but COVID was secondary in this particular situation. A problem that had been going on in the office area was some of the employees have been complaining about darkish mold that was growing along some of the walls and ceiling panels. And this had been going on for about 5 years. And the prior site general manager, if you brought it up, he would just shoot you down because it would take money to fix. We've already ignored it for a few years. We're just going to keep on ignoring it. And I had to show as the interim general manager that if you've got a problem, I will take a look at it. I mean, an aspect of leadership is first, provide help. Then you can instill hope. Well, we took a look at a couple spots in one of the back offices, and they're on the left, and you can see above the ceiling tiles, and we pulled out the file cabinets, there's clearly some darkish mold growing there. And it happened to be an ill-advised installation of a large intake fan to cool the plant was put in above this office area. So when it rained, it sucked in a lot of water. So then, all right, let's go bring in some professionals to diagnose how extensive is this dark mold. I don't want to use the word black. There are different forms of black mold, but regardless of exact form, we want to get the mold out of there. Well, there on the right, when we said, let's just get rid of some of the ceiling tiles and the sheetrock that have some extensive mold, that took out a lot of the office. That particular view was only a small portion of it, and there were a lot of individual offices that were affected. So when we had the mold abatement company come out and take a look, and they said, you know, this is going to cost a lot because you have furniture to move and you've got different areas to section off. It's going to be expensive. And their cost was anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 extra to do all the furniture moving and get the place set up. And so instead of contracting them for that, I got hold of the supervisors and managers and said, you know what? They're going to start tomorrow. Can we clear out all of the offices in an hour and 15 minutes after the morning production meeting? And that group in the middle are the weightlifters that did the Olympic job of emptying all the office areas in an hour and 15 minutes. Now, what made it striking for them is previously the site general manager would take up to 9 months to consider any minor layout changes to the office. And we pretty much did all that in an hour and 15. Next slide, please. So people enjoy seeing the general manager get active, and they'll just pick up that good example. For those weekly meetings that had strayed away from discussing safety, we call them circle meetings. And all the employees could be there, but the groups would be, 6 to 12 employees at a time for their once a week meeting. And this is an agenda for all the meetings, is one, to look back on a standing agenda, look back on what we've done this year. Are there any updates, projects going on? But under the second item, it's got safety. What we're asking is for each person, they get a turn. And they can contribute on the topic as we go around the group. They can contribute that they've seen something, or they can politely say pass. But this means each person specifically has a chance to speak up if they saw, for example, a safety hazard. And it was amazing how many things we learned. I didn't know, for example, that 2 exit doors in one warehouse had become stuck sometime before and could not be opened from the inside. Now, that's a problem if you're in a large warehouse, there's 2 exits, they have a large sign above them, but in case of a fire or some other emergency, those doors can't be opened. So obviously we fixed that and other things quite quickly. The graphic on the right is when somebody said, every once in a while, the night shift puts very heavy objects on top of the rolling racks, and it's hard for some of our smaller people to take it down. And right after that meeting, I printed out a label, and it says, the top shelf, please use only for samples and empty totes. So you can put things up there, but don't put things up there that weigh 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, because some people of smaller, shorter stature may have a hard time lifting it off. So that's just an aspect of changing the communication flow to get more information, open discussion on possible safety hazards. And instead of taking weeks or months to address simple problems, it's done immediately. Okay, next slide, please. And this is a test of visual acuity. All this was when customers had called up with problems dealing with the product quality, everybody fell all over themselves in terms of, well, what do we do now? How do we methodically address a customer complaint? And so all this was giving it a procedure, a repeatable procedure. So whoever was assigned that particular customer complaint to track it down, they would take it through the steps of diagnosis and remedy methodically and consistently. And it just happened that the steps in that process paralleled the 8D that is pretty much a standard in automotive. So we were able to allow some translation to 8D and the automotive world, but yet make it make sense for the product that we were making. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay. You're all set, Augie. Climate
Okay,
notes.
much appreciated. Well, pardon, it just takes a moment for me to see the visual. So this one is on the climate notes. And if you do get mobile for your assignments, I've been to Watlow City and Minot, South Dakota during the tourist seasons of January and February. But in central Nebraska, certainly it can snow a little bit. And when you go to a smaller city, they don't typically have corporate housing readily available. I think there was there might have been one or two other Airbnbs that might have been available. This was kind of a fluke. I was able to find a nice loft in an old downtown building. And there at the bottom left, you can see that, you know, you entered it from the alley, went upstairs, and you went into this loft. By the way, that car on the right was my company issued rental car. It really works well in a small town. That when I went to get my long-term leased vehicle from Enterprise, they were all stocked out of the Ford EcoSport. And they asked if I could accept the upgrade to the Challenger at no upcharge. And I acquiesced and said, this time I'll allow it. And there's nothing like being in a small town with the new
Yeah.
hot rod. Now, it was not that austere in that even though most of the buildings in this town, downtown, were only 2 stories, this particular loft was sizable. So there on the right, you can see a picture of what my accommodations look like. So I was prepared for something a bit rougher due to the fact that there's not much of a supply of longer term housing, but it worked.
And it came with dead animals. So what can a guy like, you know, that's great.
Appreciate it. Next slide, please.
Okay, there you go.
Whoa.
And this was just pointing out that, you know, the company that was located in central Nebraska, they're not looking to sell anytime soon, but they're looking to boost their profitability, and they had a declining site. Similar tactics were applied in full cycle M&A, and as Anthony has noted, and Austin, I sometimes reference the company Snorkel because I was deeply involved in the transaction where Elwood Holdings bought it for $4 million and 4.5 years later sold it for 126. I got to do the operational due diligence, the go forward planning, and function more like a fractional COO to build the company up during those 4.5 years, and then sold it. And by the way, that $4 million purchase price had already been paid for 3 times over out of cash distribution to equity holders. So that sales price was just icing on the cake. Under Textron, it was bizarre how well they figured out how to just chop this good performing company off at the knees. But when you're that large of a company, an operation making less than $200 million a year in revenue, I guess, is just sort of a rounding error.
Yeah.
Well, with that, you know, I want to show it can happen, and it does take a lot of detailed work. You can't operate remotely. You know, your management's going to be on site. You're going to have to get to know the local community, local labor market, some of the local customs. And it's going to be a little far from what you'd consider a major population center. But how's that one phrase go? Sometimes there's gold in them dar hills. But there can be opportunities there. Thanks. Next slide, please. So if there's any outstanding comments, even average comments, regarding tips, questions, or concerns, factors, tactics, or blind spots. On the left, we have the diagram of the elements of operating performance, and on the right is the festive street scene from a small town in central Nebraska.
Hey, you must be psychic. Resembles something we'll see in a minute. Thanks, Augie. It's so critical. We think about the reality of getting from the closing of a deal to your chart that you just showed just a minute ago, where you're exiting at you know, whatever it was, 20 times what you paid for it or something like that. I guess it was more than that, maybe 25 times what you paid for it.
About 25.
25 times what you paid for it. So that qualifies as a home run, probably a grand slam home run. But there is a lot of work that has to go in, and a lot of attention that has to be paid. Very hard to do a quick flip, as people may be familiar with real estate and home flipping or something. It takes a lot, and it involves people. And you hit on, and I'll stop talking, but you hit on a couple things that I saw so clearly. And again, I was working internationally, but being on the ground, being visible, walking in the shoes of the guys that are on the line, or the supervisors, just once or twice, so you get a sense of what they're putting up with or what they have to deal with, what decisions do they have to make. Just makes the world a difference. And if you're buying a remote, like a remote division or a remote location, then you need to be well aware that things like the mold that you found, Augie, those things are quite possibly out there, because it's very likely that the former owner was, let's say, preparing to sail, or perhaps, as you said, in the case of Snorkel, they lost interest because it was a rounding error. I had a couple of those businesses of my own that I had to manage. And it's amazing how people will respond when you tell them, don't spend a damn penny, on, better toilet paper, use the rough stuff, that the entire workforce becomes demotivated. So it doesn't take a lot of money sometimes to get things, to improve things a lot, but you have to be willing to accept some challenges that you don't expect, like dark mold of some kind, and be willing to put up the money so that people know you care about them, rather than let them sit there and breathe the moldy crap. So they're my comments. Anybody else cheap in, welcome to.
I have a couple questions, if it's okay. Augie,
Go,
I was
Anthony.
wondering how's your current client pivoted in the COVID environment?
The business picked up in some of the large volume products because the substrate gets used in things like floor graphics. So when you go into a retail operation and it's got a label on the floor that says, maintain 6-foot social distancing, that wasn't such a popular product before. It's very popular now. Some restaurants, instead of as much dine-in, they're doing so much more takeout, and they're printing labels to go on that. So certain high volume applications have absolutely skyrocketed. Now, some other applications, say the metallized labels that get used in hard goods, dishwashers, automobiles, that business is down. But overall, revenue and bottom line are staying the same. So I'd say that was the main pivot. The work going through COVID, part of it is they believe that if the former site general manager had still been there, the facility likely would have had to shut down, because he was able to add an atmosphere of anxiety and apprehension where none needed to exist. And all of a sudden you're bringing in significant changes and asking people to wear a mask and maintain social distancing and new practices. So what really helped that facility was, one, I think, to see me wearing a mask, and two, emphasizing the basics. And that let them reduce their anxiety and just keep getting back to work.
Has there been any changes in the way that corporate communicates with its, this diverse locations or things that are offsite from corporate headquarters?
It has absolutely changed. That was an icebreaker to initiate having the CEO talk directly to production employees and all employees at the various sites around the country. Sort of an aha moment that a lot of folks are thinking, well, the CEO, he's visible. Well, he's visible, but inside the administration building, hundreds of miles away. And so now it's a regular practice to have communication, actually meetings like this involving all the sites all at once.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll say, in fact, there is a weekly 30-minute lunch and learn cross-site discussion now. So people can compare notes. All the sites are there at one time.
Because one of the things, I was just going to say, one of the things that come on the other side of the virus, I think, is an appreciation for the opportunity to have the kind of communication that you're talking about, Augie. That, people, that there's been video chats and things available, but now it's, what do they say, been democratized, so that you whether you're a big company or a small company, you can do this now. The tech companies have been managing remote locations with the kind of video connections that you've been talking about. We've all been using for the last 6 months. They've been doing that. I guess my son's been in that business for 10 years, and it's been part of his life ever since he went to work for Microsoft. So that's being pulled forward, and that's going to end up presumably in better engagement at lower cost. So, that's productivity for what's coming up after the virus is over.
Absolutely. I think we're figuring out how to leverage the technology, work through the occasional surprises. Now, per my brother-in-law who works for Microsoft, internally, they're currently having a debate with the great success of Microsoft Teams and Outlook. The developers would like it to be that anytime you open up your Outlook email, the video is automatically on. Now, I did come back to my brother-in-law and say, let me, as one consumer, express, you don't always want that video on.
Yeah, that's right. I do check my email early in the morning, so no, I would not want video at that point.
That is correct.
Hey, we've come to the end of our allotted time. We run a little past because it's been very, very enjoyable. Bob, any final thoughts since this is the end of the year here?
Well, I have a question, very quick.
Oh, Henry, hello. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Austin, in the snorkel story, I see that after the sale, immediately revenues dropped again. What happened there?
Good point. One, construction equipment historically is a harbinger of economic downturns because construction dries up. Well, if construction dries up, then there's less demand for contractor supply houses to rent out boom lifts and scissor lifts. So initially the 2008 crash hit them, but Tanfield proved to be an inept operator because they absolutely did not understand industrial products. Their background had been in electronics, high volume, standardized electronics. And so they fell to the mat, but could never get back up. So Henry, to your point, economic conditions played a part in depressing the drop in revenue. But they went down and stayed down because they just couldn't figure out how to manage the business.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
everyone for putting up with the technical difficulties.
Hey, we got through it. We adapt. We pivoted, guys. Well, Augie showed you Columbus, Nebraska. This is Poolsboro, Washington. All decked out for the holidays. At least they're trying to deck out for the holidays. One of those things far, far away that I can't travel to. I love there. Ben Franklin has some advice as we go into the holidays. Please be at war with your vices. Be at peace with your neighbors and let the new year find you to be a better person. Ben probably said man, but I've changed it to person. But happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for joining in this I can't tell it's a fantastic year. It's been a completely amazing year. Let's put it that way. And looking forward to 2021. Hopefully we can find a good venue to bring us back in if we don't see the help that we need out of the technical center. So Bob, any last comments?
Yeah, even though we're not having a meeting in December, many of us are still going to be working in the background to improve things for the forum. So we'll be communicating probably a lot during December. Keep your eyes out for communications. Please respond if you've got any thoughts or comments or complaints or even attaboys. Send them forward, because there are a lot of people working in the background to make things better for all of us. And
Amen.
please answer the survey.
Thank you for being our Zoom host, Mr. Austin. Augie.
My pleasure, always.
Many hand claps back to you. Best of luck in Kansas City now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Bye, everybody. Take care.